This is Temple 19, Tatsueji, the Temple of the Rising Bay. And there are a lot of interesting stories going on about this temple that I'll try to share with you. There also is a festival going on here. And I also got here really late in the day, just as the festival was closing down, and rushing to get my book signed before everything closed up. So I'll try to walk through everything. Here, I can't get a good picture because of the light, but you kind of get an idea of the Neo here, and a giant sandal in front. And it's similar to the left. So the festival's closing down. This guy has this lady has a couple pieces of corn still left. And there's a beautiful pagoda and statue over on the left. This temple was founded by Yogi at the request of Emperor Shomu. While the temple was being built, a white heron landed on what is now called Shirasagi Bridge, and this is considered to be a very auspicious sign. And I'm not sure where the bridge is quite yet. Hopefully I'll find it as I walk around. I have bad light, but this is the bell tower. Before I get back to my story, as I'm looking for things. As I said, I got here really late. I was planning to come in the morning, but the inn I'm staying at, the people said, go, go, go. So Gyogi founded this temple, and this was at the behest of Emperor Shomu. The temple was originally about a quarter mile away from the present location, and it was actually the temple that emperors came to pray to. Emperor Shomu had set up all the kokubunji, as I'll get to in a later story, but this was a temple that they came to pray for. At this temple, there is a jizo carved by Gyogi, and later on Kobodaishi came here, and he carved another image and placed Gyogi's image inside of his image. Now what's interesting is that recently various museums in Japan have discovered many statues with images inside of images. So it appears to have been a fairly common practice. As we've seen many times, there's the main gate in the pagoda from up here. As we've seen many times on this journey, Motochika's forces destroyed this temple. It was rebuilt on the present location in 1659. The Hondo, this main hall, which I don't have a good view of, has been restored last century, and it's particularly quite of all the temples we've seen so far, particularly a magnificent structure. There's the pagoda in Daishido. I believe this is a shukubo to stay at. Actually, some of this building burned down in 1977 and it was rebuilt later. Now the temple has a marvelous legend attached to it that I'll try to recount as these kids go running about. And the story goes that there was a family that was incredibly poor that had 3 daughters. So they sold one of their daughters to a geisha house, and she became a geisha, and she was working there. And then her parents came in the need of cash again. So this time they took her from the geisha house and they basically strolled her into a house of prostitution, a much lower level place. She was 16 years old when they did this. In Osaka, this house of prostitution that she was at, she took a lover named Yosuke, and he paid to release her from her contract and set her up as a mistress. And she journeyed home to ask her parents' permission to marry Yosuke. They were outraged at her unfilial conduct, and because if she was married, they would lose their source of income, and they didn't want that. So Okyo and her lover killed Yosuke, the man who bought her out of servitude as a prostitute, and then they were planning to commit double suicide. In the spring of 1803, they took a boat across to Shikoku and decided to walk the pilgrimage. When they came to temple number 19, this one here, Okyo tried to pray at the main gate, and suddenly the bell rope entwined into her hair and lifted her off the ground. She started to scream in agony, and a priest rushed out and started to pray. Okyo dropped to the ground with most of her hair and part of her scalp being still entwined in the bell rope. She, in truth, had been tonsured. She begged the priest for tutelage, and she became a nun, and she lived in a small chapel nearby and devoted the rest of her life to prayer. And her lover, who she had killed her husband, who had brought her out of prostitution with, became a laborer at the temple. And here in this little hall, this black-haired hall next to the Daishi-do, you can see Okyo's hair still tied up into the bell rope. Kind of an interesting story of a woman sold into prostitution by her parents, who tries to get out of it, and because of her ways, she ends up taking various lovers and killing one, and then coming here and walking the pilgrimage, and then through the power of Kobaidashi, she realizes the mistakes of her ways and repents and becomes a devout believer in Kobaidashi and Buddhism. Temple number 19, Tatsueji, the Temple of a Rising Bay.